that you have more in common with the ancestral Pueblo than you may realize. Would you believe me? I see the skepticism in your eyes. I know what you're thinking. Come on, Ranger. They haven't lived here for 700, 800 years, and now you're telling me that I have something in common with these people? That is what I am suggesting. And I want to go beyond everybody needs food, everybody needs shelter, everybody needs water. That is certainly true. But you have more in common than that with the ancestral Pueblo. Because if you have ever changed a job or occupation, you have something in common. If you have ever moved, you have something in common. If you built your own home or had a home built for you, or you remodeled the home that you were living in, you have something in common. And if in your community there is any type of a community center or gathering place, you have something in common. Does everybody feel they have at least one thing in common, if not more? Yeah. So to begin with, I want to talk a little bit about that change in job or occupation. And I'm wondering, by a show of hands, how many of you have ever changed a job? I am not surprised to see all those hands. I read a statistic. The average American in their lifetime has 11 to 12 jobs. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. That's only the average. Some are less, some are more. But the ancestral Pueblo also had a change in job or occupation. Really, it was an entire lifestyle change. Because beginning at about the year 550, they decide to make a change going from hunting and gathering to farming. So previous to that time, as hunters and gatherers, they're following the large herds of animals, they're gathering plants to eat. It was a very nomadic way of life. But in about the year 550, they decide they're going to put roots into the ground, literally. And they're going to farm right up here where you are standing, and they're going to live next to their fields initially, first in pit houses and later on in pueblos, which you can see on the Mesa Top Loop if you have time to drive that loop before you leave the park. So you've had a little time to look around right now. Does this seem like a good area for farming? Not at all, right? Hard rock, not much moisture around. How could they expect to farm? Conditions were much different. So if we went back to the year 550, there was actually plentiful sunlight, adequate moisture, and good soil for growing crops. So let's talk a little bit about sunlight to get started. And to start, I need to make a confession. Did you realize you're not on a mesa right now?
Yes. Oh.
I know. I welcomed you to Mesa Verde National Park, right? But if I was to be geologically correct, I would welcome you to Cuesta Verde National Park. Cuesta, C-U-E-S-T-A, is very similar to a mesa, which, by the way, in Spanish means table. Yeah. So, but you are not on a flat table right now. The top is tilted at about a 6 to 7 degree angle, and it's facing the sun. Now, anybody here like to garden? Yeah? So you love a southern exposure, right? In this case, that will guarantee 150 frost-free days, which a crop like corn requires. Let's talk a little bit about soil. And is there anyone here from Utah or Arizona? Thank you. So the reason I'm thanking you is that the soil that was here in 550 blew in from where you live. It is called Los, L-O-E-S-S. Now, I grew up in the Midwest. If any of you did, you know that when we talk about farming soil, we're talking about that nice, black, rich, organic soil. That's not exactly what was here. First off, it was not black, it was red. but it was nutrient rich. And about a depth of 12 inches or more, it was a good place for growing crops. So we've got plentiful sunlight, we've got enough soil. Now we need to talk about moisture, right? So the average precipitation up here is about 18 inches annually, and that includes snowmelt. But when you start looking at the precipitation totals around Mesa Verde National Park, you find that it's much less. And that is what made so many people come to Mesa Verde to farm. The conditions were actually much better for farming here than the surrounding area. And that's going to be important later on. Keep that fact in mind. So what did they grow?
Pumpkins?
Yeah, kind of like a squash, right? A pumpkin or a butternut type of squash. What else did they grow? Someone said beans, I think. Is that what you said? Yeah, or corn. Yeah. Corn. So they grew corn, and I gave you a hint.
I was thinking about beans too.
Corn is correct. Beans, right? The three sisters. Very good. So Midwesterners, when we think of corn, we're thinking of those nice big ears of sweet corn, right? This is a sample of the kind of corn that they are growing. Not exactly Iowa sweet corn, is it? But it's still pretty good bang for the buck, because remember, you only need to plant one kernel. That kernel is going to yield about 350 to 500 kernels. So if you gave me $1 to invest and I returned $350 to $500 back, would you call that a good return?
Yes, sir, I would.
Absolutely. Sign me up, right? So even though this looks a little puny and small, it was a good crop for them to grow. Do you like eating corn?
Yes, I love corn.
You love corn? Do you love corn too? So if you lived in Balcony House or any of these other cliff dwellings, it was 75 to 80% of your diet. You are going to be eating a lot of corn. So when you think of the squash, just as you said, think more pumpkin or gourd type of squash rather than zucchini, as well as beans. Those were the three crops that they mainly grew up here. Would you get a little tired of eating corn, beans, and squash every day?
Yeah.
You'd like a little variety, right? They did too. And they hunted here. They hunted deer. Has anybody seen any deer in the park?
Yes.
All right. They hunted rabbits. Have you seen any rabbits in the park?
Nope.
Not yet. Okay. I know you've seen squirrels. They hunted squirrels too. And they also kept in their cliff dwellings wild turkeys. Has anybody seen any wild turkeys in the park? You did, yeah. They are still here, and they were raised domestically. So we talk about free-range chickens today. These were free-range turkeys. They were kind of allowed to move around the village on their own. One of your jobs may have been to feed the turkeys the corn that you were growing up here. And turkeys were important not only for their meat, not only for their eggs, not only for their bones, but also for their feathers. Do you know what they did with their feathers?
Warm.
Exactly, they made blankets. And it took thousands of feathers that they wove together in order to make the blankets, and that's how you stayed warm in winter. Any questions?
How about
Your hands also need to be free. So if you're carrying a water bottle, stow that before you start climbing the ladder. Okay. Two at a time.
No, we're from Tucson.
Tucson.
I was born and raised in Colorado, but
nice.
now I live out there and
How do you
moved
like
back.
Tucson?
It's hot. Yeah.
And about 23 kivas. So that is a huge cliff dwelling. This is a little bit more mid-sized. Construction that took place here occurred really in three phases. The first phase was around 1180 to 1220. but you won't see any construction left from that period. It was all removed to make room for other rooms that were being constructed. The next
Down and back up, like, because at least you really could go up and over that quick house, so that was the other side of the gorge. Did you get it? Okay.
Yeah, no joke, they averaged 5'5". There are stairs here.
They also had those stone doors that I was telling you about, like smaller rodents getting in, and then they made them.
No, I know. You can. But you come and get yelled at.
With the fires that they had going on, that kind of kept it warm.
So what's the hole?
That's pretty interesting that. What's the what?
The hole.
In the black, I think.
Smack that in the middle.
Oh, the hand, yeah. It's hard to see in actually, one would be great.
There is a donation box in the museum if you would like to contribute there.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Great job, Paul.
Thank you for coming along today. Oh, thank you so much.
This is called the Spruce Tree House. So there's a little trail behind the museum. I'm gonna walk down there and see these cliff dwellings.
And then we go all the way down, and then you walk over to there, and then you take the ladder out. And we'll go over the tour route in more detail when it's time for our safety briefing.
Daughter Debbie, she was just a kid,
We're gonna stop.
and she remembers walking out to him, but she doesn't remember the trip in.
Oh, that's fun. So for the folks coming down, I just want to reiterate, and I'm going to keep saying this throughout, please try to resist any urge that you have to lean on or touch the walls. They're not necessarily structurally sound as much as they would have been when they were constructed. So we want to just try to minimize, and they're pretty much eroded by now. They also would have built ladders to get them into places like that. It is kind of a cave, but it doesn't go that much further back than it does now. But ladders for something like that. All right. So as soon as everybody gets up here, we'll start talking again.